So we head on over to Pritchard to analyze and secure the Typhoon, and the office chatter is doing an excellent job of following the plot.
I don't buy for a second he was with Purity first. I think someone slipped him into Sandra's room.
Pritchard's too busy trying to figure out how the hacker got the access code to the Typhoon, so we're off to see Seraph because he wants an in-person debrief. That's good because that shows he's consistent as opposed to simply talking to Adam over the phone.
Well, when we're done here, check him with Dr. Markovic at the limb clinic downtown. Get her to get a checkup.
This is Seraph Industries. Can't Adam just go down to one of the dozens of floors in the building filled with the world's top medical doctors, engineers, computer scientists who are on David's payroll, who probably built Adam's custom augmentations and did the surgery? And he must have state-of-the-art diagnostic equipment in comparison to going to a clinic? What, you don't have a healthcare package for your head of security you brought back from the dead when you're one of the leading transhumanism corporations on the planet? Wouldn't the swords in Adam's arms raise some questions? David is either the cheapest billionaire boss in history, the limb clinic is their healthcare plan, or this is just horrible plot progression. I'm sure there are better ways to progress and explain the plot. All David had to do was say, all our doctors in-house are busy, but I know of a great one downtown. I've already contacted them with your medical history. And that would have been perfectly fine, as opposed to David being the de facto plot provider. Something just doesn't feel right here. And why does he suddenly remind me of the Thunderbirds and a used car salesman?
Yeah, about Sanders. What the hell were you thinking? Letting him slip away like that? I sent you in there to take care of things.
You asked me to deal with the situation, and that's what I did.
Oh, I'm sorry, David. I'm not a giant murdering prick. Oh yeah, thanks for these arm swords. This is actually a good conversation since Adam is actually saying what we're thinking. Aside from waiting for Pritchard to figure out the Typhoon data, our next lead is to check out the hacker's body. But the police are telling David he wasn't an augment and won't let him see the body. So instead of him trying various other avenues of influence over a local small police precinct, in comparison to the power he has over the entire Milwaukee SWAT force, he just asks Adam to break into the police department. In relation to the plot, every point David makes in this conversation is poorly put together because of the obvious questions it raises. It makes us dislike David, and kind of diminishes the mystique of working for a leading-edge transhumanism corporation. Then there's a side plot with a Seraph employee who's been smuggling neuropozyne. Neuropozyne is a drug that tricks the body into thinking augments are natural so they aren't rejected. This side plot tells us about the side effects of not taking the drug: rejection syndrome, crippling pain, and then death. This is okay, but this is something the main storyline should have addressed by also showing us. For an urban world filled with augments, slums, and city life, I don't see any people here in pain or trying to score neuropozyne. At this point, we're now curious about Adam's neuropozyne issue. Walking outside, we meet Megan's mother, Cassandra. We get to determine how Adam's opinion is in relation to Cassandra's opinion of Seraph Industries and the loss of Megan, as well as his own augmentation. Once again, like Malik, this is a great example of reiterating the premise or original conflict of the story, and granting the player some control over Adam's definition of it. It also merits a subplot, not a side plot like the previous scene, about what really happened to Megan.
I never got a chance to investigate the attack myself. I'll look into it.
And the narrative finally answers its own question. Great! Adam wasn't busy hunting down his attackers for 6 months, and was more than likely just recovering. This is a touching scene about a mother looking for answers, and a lover looking for clues to his loved one's murderers. This is an excellent development which further motivates the character, as it implies a relationship does not exist in some past static world, but in reality, where it impacts the future, and where deaths in the family are real. Other side characters also comment on Adam's condition and the loss of Megan. This also lightly connects with Adam's trip to the police station. It would have been quite a reveal if Adam's mother met with David and Adam inside Seraph Industries, so David didn't come across as some stupid, control-freaky boss, and instead as a smooth, potentially caring person who thinks of his co-workers as family. That kind of scenario somewhat took place in the comic book, and I felt was actually done better there. Nonetheless, this is a very well done method of converging plots and making the main plot become ever so personal. We find out the attack on Seraph headquarters was covered up by federal jurisdiction, 3 different departments, and various lobbyists. The ex-cop also gives us 3 leads to follow: Captain Penn's computer, a Chet Wagner who got his hands dirty, who supposedly tampered with evidence, and a storage locker next to the station. Though not integral, this all neatly connects to our main plot, which is to get data on the dead hacker in the morgue. Now, we have reason to believe the police force is being paid off to hush up certain crimes, which implies a connection to the premise, and thus David's desire to use Adam's talents. See, this is how you tell a subplot. The more related the subplot, the better the relationship. Finally, we get to the limb clinic and discover the issue between Adam and neuropozyne. Turns out Adam's body isn't rejecting augmentations, but is instead developing a stronger relationship between tissue and electrode. Now, the doctor is just doing her job, but I would imagine any doctor in this field who looked at Adam's file would be shaking their head. In fact, they might even want to get them to consult researchers or others in the field who study neuropozyne withdrawal cases just to see what's making Adam tick. We also learn that David was giving money to Lim to allow Adam to exclusively purchase Praxis software kits to allow him to turn on his augmentations. They weren't all turned on since Adam had to have safety precautions due to the hematoma suffered during the attack. So David isn't so much of a cheap bastard. Either that, or he doesn't like talking about money or why he did this, when other more obvious avenues for looking after Adam's condition were available. Does this story want us to believe that David doesn't like talking about money, business, or taking care of his workers, especially the most heavily augmented worker he's ever had? Why wouldn't he tell us he gave a whole bunch of money to Lim, and then he specifically wanted to hear what the doctor had to say? Isn't that in everyone's best interest? So instead of having David look like a nice, caring boss who's actually taking care of his investment, and potentially what he believes is the best chance against opposing forces that are breaking the law, he just comes across as an uncaring jerk. This is a good reveal, but it's a little late in coming. In a sense, the narrative is wiping its own ass, only after realizing it came from the bathroom, when it could have made David look like the intelligent, sophisticated, possibly manipulative businessman I thought the writer wished to make him out to be. Thus, we can already get a feeling that there's not going to be much in the way of choosing sides. That is to say, David should the issues and the themes of the story become realized. We arrive at the station and find out Adam knows a few guys still here. And there's one in particular that steals the show. Enter Wayne Haas, our story's tragic side character, an ex-SWAT team commander who was under Adam's leadership. He got demoted due to following an order that Adam wouldn't, to shoot an augmented kid. This shows that Adam is a caring, thoughtful guy. In regards to his previous violent job, he has principles, or at least in not attacking children. Adam is a real person who had a real job, whose actions impacted others, and this is that reality. Now, we have a very similar situation where things may go bad for Wayne again. Wayne is forced to either help or reject Adam with great risk to himself. The conversation is actually quite dynamic, even without the social augmentation. Depending on how you diffuse the situation, this also shows Adam as a caring, supportive friend, a dismissive pragmatist, or an egocentric jerk. Wayne is extremely sensitive, pretty much open with all his feelings, positive or negative. This is by far the greatest conflict in the story, and it's just a conversation. It's, dare I say, the highlight of the entire story, as it deals with Adam's past as it mirrors the present. It's dynamic in its multiple outcomes in defining Adam's character, and it determines the style of gameplay in progressing the plot. It also has a highly charged personal outlook on both these characters, and most importantly, the conflict is tense. Even if you come across as negative, you truly feel bad for Wayne. If you're a nice guy and stepped on Wayne's toes to get your way, well, you'd probably want to replay the scene to get the best possible outcome. It's just that good. Interestingly enough, at a later date, Wayne could get fired as a result of getting him to help Adam. Adam and Wayne again have a similar situation. The past is prologue, and both must deal with the consequences of their actions. This is why we have plot-driven interactive media, for video games to provide meaningful, personal stories of characters whose conditions we truly care about. And this is just one of the tragic stories, like Adam's, that have been impacted as a result of transhumanism. An appropriate narrative with a well-developed theme should build on these tragic conflicts, allowing us to understand the pathos of new ones in a similar light.